Hello, friends, both old and new. I'm John St. Baptiste. This is Music Makes People Come Together, and this is Songs for Ice and Fire. I am joined by the amazing and wonderful SassaK, who knows far more about music than I ever could. And we are going to talk some Djawadi today. I have been corrected on how to pronounce his name.
And you got it wrong.
No, and that's why I'm saying I've been corrected.
I will say it correctly in a minute if you want.
I thought that because he was from Germany, that the name would be pronounced Djawadi, but his parentage is actually Turkish, so the way you would say it would be Djawadi. So glad somebody cleared me up on that, so I don't sound like quite as much of an idiot as I actually am.
Okay.
But we are going to talk some amazing music today, and I hope you folks are excited about it. Let me introduce my guest, SassaK.
Hi guys, it's Sarah. Sorry if I get distracted at times from the actual video being several seconds behind our actual feed. Good to see everybody. And I hope that we have something to add tonight that you haven't heard before about the music. And I look forward to seeing in the chat what you guys have to say about anything to do with the music in this wonderful show and about Ramin Djawadi and, whatever. Hopefully you won't get bored with my analysis or, since somebody else had to drag their instruments on a stream a little while ago, I did bring my flute. So, but after 9 p.m., I'm not allowed to play it in my building, so I might have to, be careful. All right. Forgot what I was going to say, so I'm just going to give it back to John.
Oh, I love getting that rope thrown back in my court. So first, let's talk about scores. Like I know you don't get quite as much into music scores as I do, but when you watch a film, the score does so much for your mentality while you're watching it. Tense scenes. I've actually never asked you this, Sarah.
Okay.
Do you watch horror films?
I don't like horror.
Okay.
So I don't really watch it, although I know that that's going to be a genre where you have a lot of really amazing music.
Well, you use partial scales a lot.
Yeah, you use the music to make people feel that much more unsettled. So you're not going to resolve things in the music if you want the people watching the film to also feel unresolved.
Right, and use, and even in non-horrific films, like in films where there's just a dramatic scene, partial scales are used quite often for what would be considered a dramatic scene, because the person who doesn't know what's going on, and even for somebody who does, like either of us, like what they're doing to your head, but it's still working.
Yeah, you can't help but have the intended effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, music scores. So I sent you a playlist. Actually, when this video is over, I'll go ahead and put it in the description down below of some of my favorite scores. I was not able to get them matched up with the films as much as I wanted to, but that's because #YouTube sues people. So,
or hashtag copyright law. I mean, yeah.
Well, no. If I create something, I want rights to it. I have no problem with copyright law. I don't.
For a reason, yeah.
But the ones that I wasn't able to get the film sync up with. I did get the live versions of, which is still think shows that grandiose projection that this type of music's supposed to make. Like in a score, you want to touch people in the field. You want to pull at their heartstrings during the emotional moments. You want to, make a dramatic scene dramatic. One of the ones I was able to get, actually, it's the first one on that playlist, is the Lighting of the Beacons by Howard Shore from Return of the King.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's a really powerful cinematic moment. If it didn't have the music, it'd just be like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we would do at times, without constantly having some form of music in the background in film, because it would just feel so incomplete. And I know there's got to be examples out there of like, oh, we took all of the score out of this clip and look at how different it is to watch this without the music. But and then that does make it more powerful in scenes in movies where they purposely have no score in the background, no anything musical, just literally what's happening. And that also then makes us feel it takes away the stability that we feel at times. So it's great for certain types of scenes.
I think we might be getting to that in a little bit.
Yeah. Of course. Sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to jump the gun.
You said you had now, was this the first time you'd seen that scene, or the first time in a while?
The Lighting of the Beacons. I mean, I saw all three of the movies when they were in the theaters. And then I've seen them when they've been on television at random times. And my youngest sister obsessively watched the films a ton of times. But for some of those times, obviously, I was like away at college and she was at home. So I didn't see them quite as much as she would have. But it wasn't my first time seeing the scenes, but it was the first time seeing that scene in quite a while. So it was interesting to watch.
And actually thinking about the music that's going on, because like good score writing isn't in your face.
Yeah,
it's not supposed to detract from the film that is being presented.
Of course, yeah. If they do it correctly, then it's not going to be the most noticeable thing in the scene because that's not the job. But at the same time,
it's epic.
There are moments where it needs to be more at the forefront than other scenes, of course.
Would you like, the last time I'll talk about that specific clip, would you like to have a job on one of those watch beacons?
No. I mean, they have good Wi-Fi. It might not be so bad for like a temp thing. But yeah, it looks boring as shit. But how exciting was it for the people that work at those beacon fires during that scene where they finally got and they're like, oh crap, I finally get to set this thing on fire. It's gonna be so good. Yeah.
It's got to be a bit of a rush. Yeah. Some of the other ones I put in there. You said you really liked the Ecstasy of Gold from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just a great piece. And so, you recognize it immediately. And then, there's some instrumentation and such in there that you don't always see. So in the particular live performance of it that you linked me to, you get to see the woman, having to go like wah 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 and stuff, and see a guy playing an ocarina in like a big concert hall. You don't normally see ocarina players on that sort of stage. So that's just one of the other examples of
Did you know that Metallica starts off their shows with it?
That piece of music?
Hey, have you ever seen them live?
I'm not a huge Metallica fan. I could take them.
Yeah, they start off their shows with the Ecstasy of Gold.
Cool.
It's like the first thing they play, and then they usually lead into Call of Cthulhu, but occasionally they lead into another piece. But yeah, it's a powerful piece of music.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know, I think it's wonderful. The only other person I wanted to touch on from that playlist before we get into the meat of this, which is going to be Ramin Djawadi, is Omeunetsu, who's composed most of the music for Final Fantasy games, and I put that in the playlist just because I think it really shows, just like what you were talking about the Lord of the Rings thing, about the cinematography. You know, you were telling me earlier, like you have all these composition students nowadays, like
Yeah.
It's like, hey, take film composition
Mm-hmm.
and then compose for video games.
Yeah, those are the forms of media that are going to get them the most employment. If you have a composition degree, you know, it's super rare that you can make enough money just writing pieces for actual, for just the sake of the piece. You know,
Right.
that's what you do to make your own art on the side, but you know, you write whatever for some TV show you've never heard of before that moment, or what have you, so that you can pay your bills, so that you can spend whatever time you have left writing music that expresses exactly what you wish to express.
But do you have any thoughts about uh, how synced up? I mean, in that piece with that film that I put up there, that's 20 years old. It came out in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have any thoughts about how well composed the piece is to what you're seeing?
Which one do you mean?
With Final Fantasy, with Final Fantasy VIII.
I mean, it was interesting to see because I don't always, you know, I don't really watch anything like that, and I don't play games.
Right.
So it was just interesting to see that type of music in that context for me. Um,
And his Latin is very good, I have to say.
oh yeah, yeah, that
Grammatically correct.
surprised me that it was. Now that I think of it, that it had the Latin, and it was just interesting fusion of like music that you wouldn't always associate with, you know, like Japanese animation and the actual animation on screen, and then actual Latin, you know, which when most people think of music in Latin, they think of church or etc. So it was just an interesting fusion of things that you generally wouldn't have put together.
I wake up at 7 on Sunday once in a while just so I can hear Latin at church.
Nice.
And because it makes me feel great because I'm like 40 years younger than anybody else in the room.
That works.
Because nobody else shows up for Latin Mass anymore except for like me and a bunch of extremely elderly.
I mean, it's rare that they actually do Latin Mass, so hey.
Yeah.
Sorry, and if you see the top of my head, it's because I'm trying to chat at the same time. I apologize.
Not at all. No, yeah. Our Latin Mass, if you want to go to it, is at like 7:30, and I get off work at 2. So
some days you just kind of chill until you can go see Latin
it doesn't happen too often.
Okay. Well, I told you though, like if there's anybody in the stream who's in Boston, there's a church. I think it might be a Lutheran church, but I could be completely wrong. Near Newbury Street, that during the academic school year, they play a Bach cantata every Sunday at their service. You know, they sing in German. They play, I think, period instruments possibly. And I went to it for a class I was taking at the time, and it was awesome. I mean, they know that half of the people that show up aren't there for Jesus. They're there for Bach, you know? So
I'm usually there for both, but
yeah, why not, right? Bach was there for Jesus, so, you know, it works out. But anyways, we're off topic a little bit.
I do have to say we have some amazing people in the chat.
Yeah, people here.
Brown Holler, the one mod who's not a Cylon.
Yes.
Bobby Catalano. We've got Giant Crazies here. Imagination Realm. Forrest Blairta. Sly the Tank Benjamin. I'll get to that in a minute. Do you want to call anybody out?
Sure. I'm seeing Peter Griffin, Catherine Harding, Jenny of Coldstone, Game of Theories with Marie. Hello to Marie Down Under. Imagination Realm. I saw Brand the Bearded Builders here. Hello. Who else did we have? OTDA. Hello.
Otelia Angel.
And Otelia Angel, yes. Hello, how are you? I think that's almost all.
Catherine Harding. The reason.
Oh yeah, and Amanda, Fearless Mermaid, way up. She was up at the top there.
Yeah, Brown Holler was the person who won the contest on my weekly stream about American Gods to be the one spanner that rules them all.
Oh, hey.
And of course, Cylons are, but that's because we're better than all of you.
Okay.
But yeah, it's and Sly the Tank Vengeance here. So since Sly finally showed up, I have to ask you, what you drinking?
Let's see. Oh, what am I drinking? Sorry. I got distracted. I have a combination of beer and water since I will be playing flute. I mistakenly opened a beer and was like, oh shit, I have to play flute. Never mind. But I have one of the final Sam Adams cold snaps that I could find since winter is here on the show. So even though now it is spring, we don't have to dream about spring anymore. And I apologize that I just reached for my drink and then awkwardly put my face right next to the camera. But hey, it's live. It's fun.
Yes, and we're amateurs, so it's okay.
Yeah, and we're not being paid for this, so who cares?
Exactly.
I'm going to try to get my drink again. Apologize, guys. There we go.
I am drinking my new favorite Cabernet. It's called If You CK.
That works.
It's a California cab. And the artwork on it is amazing. The bottle's sitting over there because I might have had a glass or two already.
Oh, just a glass or two, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope everybody caught that on camera. Half of my water didn't make it into my mouth. It looked really awesome. And all I had is like 2 sips of beer. So who knows? But anyway.
Oh, and life itself as itself is here.
Exactly.
Who is a very cool person. I actually know in my personal life. I'm not going to call them out, but yeah, life itself as itself is a pretty cool person.
Cool.
So you wanted to okay, so we've talked about scores and just how much it emotionally influences you while you're watching film. Because if you don't have a score, I mean, when you think about it, we had scores in film and well, we didn't have television back then, but like in film, we had scores before we had words. You know, you think about silent films.
Yes, exactly.
Like they put scores on, and you know, it that music influences you so emotionally when you're watching it.
True. And we had stuff like, if you take away the visual element, though, we had things like radio plays, and there was definitely music with, it's a different form of sound art, obviously, but you have something like that too. Before we had, so much television to occupy our time with. But anyways, I asked the chat if anybody had a favorite film score, anything.
And you are talking to a guy who, like, kind of just a little bit, maybe a bit likes opera.
Oh yeah. So I mean, and of course, that's the biggest precursor to, music and film. It was Mozart's favorite genre of music to make, and I know that you love Mozart.
I do love Mozart. I do love opera. I do love Wagner. I do love opera. I don't like Nazis.
Yeah, and Wagner probably would have, but anyway,
he would have been all about him.
he would have
been. In the words of Neil Gaiman, I would rather enjoy the art of somebody. I would rather enjoy good art from somebody who created it than poor art from somebody who I agreed with. Something like that.
Okay.
Like Mussorgsky and I would have got along about a lot of things, but I don't really care for Mussorgsky.
Okay.
I want to. And I know you like flute.
Which one did you say?
Mussorgsky.
Mussorgsky. Oh no, you would have loved him. He was a big ass drunk.
There are plenty.
I know. There's tons of drunk musicians, but Mussorgsky, pictures on exhibition is so
like.
I'm sorry. I keep talking at the same time, and then I can't hear what you said. I apologize.
No, I said I make a living off of drunks that I don't like.
Yeah. So you would have loved him. No, but no,
I would have loved his money.
Well, this is true. Yeah, maybe not him as a person. That could be true. I don't know as much about him as a person. I just know that I enjoyed, his most famous works at the very least, the ones that I actually know. And you in the chat probably know more Mussorgsky than you realize. You've all probably heard at least some pieces from Pictures at an Exhibition, and you've all heard Night on Bald Mountain, and you've all heard the orchestral versions of these things and not the piano versions that they were originally written in.
I forgot Night on Bald Mountain was his.
Night on Bald Mountain is freaking awesome.
No, Night on Bald Mountain is freaking awesome, but I think leaps and bounds better than the majority of stuff he wrote.
Well, since we're talking about music in film, and we're talking about Mussorgsky at the moment, there is the scene with a Mussorgsky piece from Pictures at an Exhibition. I can't think of which chunk it was, but it's a very weird piece within that work of various pieces that they use. Do you remember the scene in The Big Lebowski where he goes to see the dance performance of his landlord?
I like Mussorgsky so much more than I like The Big Lebowski.
Oh no! Well then,
I hate that movie.
Okay.
I hate that movie. I hate White Russians.
But that scene is just amazing. If you guys know in the chat what I'm talking about.
No. I know what you're talking about. I just had.
But I love that scene just because I'm like, I know this piece. And that landlord guy is so freaking weird. I love it.
Yeah, actually, Peter Griffin threw it out there. When you hear something and you know it, you might not know where you know it from.
Yeah, but it just draws you in that much more. Yeah,
you're just like,
okay.
Which almost gets more into soundtracks than scores, but
of course. Yeah, with the example I just gave is more of a soundtrack thing. It happened to be a classical piece, but it's, that particular movie isn't using a score. Let's see. I'm looking right now at some people's answers just to shout out some people's answers to scores that they liked. Peter says, can't go wrong with The Exorcist and Halloween. Getting back to you talking about horror films. Jenny says Star Wars, Jaws, The Godfather. OTDA says, the music
Star Wars, Jaws. That's John Williams.
Yes, of course.
And The Godfather is...
I can't remember either. Yeah. Not that I mean, I wouldn't have remembered.
Good piece of music, though.
And then OTTA mentions, of course, the music from Schindler's List. And Braunhaler actually is telling us that it makes them think of Fantasia, which, you know, the reason why Fantasia works so well is because you have, you know, this visual connection between music.
Wasn't Schindler's List done by Hans Zimmer?
I think I can look it up.
Braun?
You know, it's not like we don't have...
Braunhaler, I'm calling on your wrench.
Yeah, look it up.
Wrench.
Let me see. Schindler's List score. I will tell you in like 10 seconds. It is John Williams. He did everything.
Oh, he did everything.
He did everything.
John Williams is brilliant. Star Wars, which you said you play for your students.
And I don't play the music
you
from
play Mars.
I play the piece Mars from the Planets for students, and we do the opposite of film scoring. I play the piece, I pause it at different times, which is really annoying to do. But, you know, kids can't listen to like a 5-minute piece and remember everything. And I have them suggest, you know, what could be happening on screen if we were using this piece for some sort of film or animation. And they generally like it, you know, and if you have the right age of kids, you know, closer to late elementary school, maybe 6th grade. But if they're too old or too young, it doesn't always work.
After they stop hitting each other and before they stop hitting each other?
Well, they're not allowed to start to hit each other in my class. Let's see. Braunhaler just said.
No, I'm talking about outside of class.
Oh yeah, they're hitting each other plenty outside of class.
Like
but
after they start hitting,
got plenty of cameras nowadays, so you know, whatever.
You have that like 3 years of decency.
Well, when they're like tiny children.
No, I meant like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, or 3rd, 4th, and 5th maybe.
Oh no, 5th is bad.
Yeah,
I'm telling you from experience, because they think they're like hot shit by then. I'm like, you're 10. You don't matter yet. You matter, but you're not nearly as cool as you think you are at this moment compared to like the little tiny ones that you see in the hall. You shouldn't be jaded with school yet if you're only in 5th grade. But anyways,
like you need rush week.
Yeah, no, but when I would sub, 5th grade was one of the tougher ones to work with at times because they're not as inclined to be nice, I guess. So since I asked other people what their favorite scores were, I'm just going to throw out something that I know John might not agree with, but some of my favorite music in films and such. I personally really like the There Will Be Blood soundtracks. Sorry, There Will Be Blood. I used the wrong verb there because I'm a fan of Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. But not just because I was a fan of his before. I really do enjoy that soundtrack. That score. And as far as soundtrack goes, I told John the other day that I really love the music from the film The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou because it's mostly Bowie tracks.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that a score is so much different than soundtrack.
Oh yeah, it's all original music, purposely written for scenes that were already filmed. Most likely.
Whereas the soundtrack, and I think there's a bit of pretension that people have. Like, well, he wrote the score. Well, yeah, well, he or she put this soundtrack together.
Yeah. They picked all these particular pieces from every piece of music you could possibly choose from. They chose these particular tracks, and they worked
at this moment, and they time it specifically for this moment.
And it works.
Film, and it works. Like, I've said this before, if you pretend that you understand Lost Highway after you've watched it 20 times, you're a liar. But the score's great, the soundtrack's great too, and both were done by Trent Reznor.
Oh yeah, he's great.
You know, he's kind of great. He's kind of awesome. But speaking of other composers,
getting us back on track again.
Since we're only 20 minutes into this.
Oh yeah, I have a limited amount of time on my mein Flöte.
And you have your flute.
Yeah, I mean, I can play a little bit after 9 o'clock.
Your big thing about Djawadi is how he uses sound, how he uses I wouldn't say unnatural. How he uses I wouldn't say abnormal. He uses time signatures you wouldn't use normally.
I don't think that's necessarily true though. In Game of Thrones, it's mostly in time signatures that we're very used to. There's a couple of pieces that are in other ones, but for the most part, it's in some version of 4 or 3.
Except for the piece that you wanted to play.
Except for the piece where I'm purposely going to highlight that is not yet. But for the most part, it's all in some version of 4. The main title sequence is in a compound meter. I think it's in 12/8. So it's in a group of 4, but each group is subdivided into a triplet. So.
By the way, for any of you pianists out there, or any of you aspiring pianists, 12/8 is...
It's 6/8, but there's more of it. What? Not fun? Is that what you said?
It's totally not fun on your left hand.
Depends on the piece. That's why I like flute. You play one note at a time. That's why after I started flute, piano went to the back burner because I'm like, piano's hard. Flute is still hard, but at least I'm only reading one note at a time. It's got its own unique challenges, like figuring out how to balance your breathing, but you only have to play one note at a time.
Right. Fair enough.
So there is that advantage.
Hashtag cheater.
Yes, exactly. So we were talking about
hashtag we lost one.
Okay. If you want, we could go directly into that piece with the
because I know you really want to play the piece, and I want to make sure you can do it within your time constraints, and we should talk about that. And then go into some other things.
mean, luckily it's flute that I would be playing and not like, French horn or something that would be really loud. But for this piece, when I was talking to John about what pieces I wanted to highlight today, I said, I'm going to focus mostly on tracks from season 3 because I think that season 3 has a really good, it was just a really awesome list of pieces when I was comparing them and everything. Not that every other season isn't awesome too, but
his work's great, but 3 is definitely
3 has a really
score-wise
combination. Yeah.
Score-wise, 3 is definitely one of my top 2. My other would be 6, which I love hate season 6, but
that's
score-wise, it's brilliant.
Okay, so the piece that I wanted to highlight with the interesting meter, and meter is like the way the beats are grouped together. Most stuff is grouped in beats, like 4 beats per measure. If you've taken any music lessons, most music is in 4 or some version of 4 or 2. And what's it called? Dracarys, which is a main Daenerys themed piece, is, you might recall it from the scene where Daenerys gets her unsullied. But it's in this meter 5/4 where you have 5 beats per measure, which doesn't feel as natural to us as groups of 4 or 3. So it has this different feeling to it. and it's kind of like in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm gonna play a section of it for you guys just to hear it and see if you can kind of hear that grouping for yourself. But let me pull it up to the moment that I thought would be a good part to highlight. Oops, there it goes. That's not it. Okay. I don't know where the mic on my computer is. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that help you? Okay. I don't want to play too much of it because of, you know, copyright law, etc., etc. But, you know, you guys can probably recall when you heard that piece when watching the show, and you can picture different scenes where it might have been. So, you know, that's sort of the only example that I definitely knew within the soundtrack that had like a very, very unique meter, a very, very unique time signature. I mean, unique's the wrong word, but like a less common time signature, I guess. But
time signature.
Yeah. Just basically anything other than in groups of 4 or 3 is going to feel different. And the piece we were talking about before, Mars by Holst, is also in 5/4. So hey, there you go. Bringing it back around. Oh, never mind. I thought somebody said something in the chat. Hold on. So I hope that everybody in the chat recognized that piece and was able to actually hear it with the way I was just playing it out of my phone speaker for you. But if there's anything anybody wants to say about that particular piece of music, like, oh yeah, I love that one, it's so good, or whatever, feel free to shout it out in the chat. So I don't know, what would you want to talk about next, John? I mean, I can talk about all the things from season 3.
I'm gonna let you play during your 5 minutes that you have left before the.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. If we go over, if I play at like 9:20, they're not going to kick me out of the building. But you know, if I was like playing some crazy, practicing some crazy stuff on my piccolo at like 10:30 at night, there would be an issue. Yeah.
Speaking of piccolo,
I'm not going to bust out my piccolo right now. I haven't been practicing.
I wanted to talk about how it was deliberately avoided.
Oh yeah.
In all the soundtracking work that Djawadi did, because the scriptwriters wanted to avoid anything that had a
stereotypical medieval sound.
Stereotypical, yeah, that's a damn good way to put it.
Yeah. Like wooden,
no piccolo, no recorder, no
lute.
No fiddle leads.
Yeah. There was plenty of violin, but not used in a way.
Oh yeah.
You know, and the music definitely is very string and percussion heavy for sure.
Oh yeah.
There's some winds and etc., but strings and percussion definitely take the lead in basically every single piece that he wrote for the show.
Oh yeah. I'd say Djawadi has a hard-on for strings the way that John Williams does for horns. Like it's.
I feel like a lot of score composers though are all about horns. I don't know. Horns are great though, so whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it badly.
Oh, I'm not saying that you are. Yeah.
But John Williams loves himself some horns. Like really loves himself some horns. And Djawadi really loves himself some strings. Like the only other score composer that I can think of who is string heavy would be Howard Shore, who did all the
you love
who I do love.
Everybody should love, yes.
But well, not only did he do all the Lord of the Rings work, he also he before that mostly he did horror films.
Okay.
And that's why he is so good at writing pieces like that have those like pulling Yankee, make you want to jump out of your seat violins, like
using all sorts of extended techniques and using the like they call them harmonics when they put their finger on the string but not all the way down, so it creates like super high pitched notes, and therefore like the timbre of it is not necessarily as pleasant as in its average sort of range. So there are actually, I wrote down that the piece for the White Walkers piece within season 3, and it comes back in other other things later on in the show. They definitely use that element that you were just talking about with the very high pitched screechy strings, kind of like spooky strings. And beginning of it, because of that, reminded me of a piece of music called Threnody for the Victims of Hiroshima by Christoph Penderecki. I don't know if anybody knows that. I expect that you don't. But it's like this crazy, you do? Yes. It's a crazy strings piece. It's all strings. It's a ton of them. And basically, it's for the victims of Hiroshima. We all know what happened there. So the strings are used to almost depict at times like people screaming. So, and that same sort of element was heard in the strings for the sort of White Walker theme that appears on the soundtrack for.
To make you feel once again that subconscious discomfort.
Yeah, like it's not good.
Bron Holler asks a question, which.
Sure. Oh yeah, I'm keeping up with my chat.
You can. Any specific reason they wanted to avoid the medieval sounding instruments?
I mean, you're the one who told me that for sure, but I think you were just saying that they were trying to avoid any cliches that are done in other movies or TV shows about, people at this time. And also we don't see a ton of people actively playing instruments on screen. Like we don't see a lot of it being performed live. We just have a score that we're talking about for the most part. Yes, we do have people playing it live at times, like in the Red Wedding. But even that, the start of it is so simple where you just have.
I mean, honestly, like sit there and break it down. You've probably watched the show more than I have.
Possibly.
I'm a book nerd.
Yeah, I mean, I've only read the books once.
But you have the Red Wedding.
If you want, I wrote down every instance of using the Reigns of Castamere theme, and I can name. I don't know that would be the best use of our time, but I could.
Reigns of Castamere. Oh, what is it? You discovered 15 different versions?
I think at least 16 times where it either is just some sort of variation on it, or it's it's utilized within another piece of music to kind of where the piece started out as something else and it kind of mentions it to remind you like something to do with either House Lannister, or it's a piece that has to do with Cersei, or like I know you told me that you thought it was referenced during the Light of the Seven piece. I didn't really hear it when I re-listened, but I should probably re-listen again.
I feel like it's one of those. We were talking about this earlier. Like I feel like it's a jazz riff.
Okay.
So like you're playing off a jazz riff, and someone's like, play this in E. Now I'm only gonna hit E. Let's say we're doing like a really simple track, like Sweet Georgia Brown. Now, because I'm a show-off pianist, or at least I was when I still have full use of both my hands, I I would play GDD minor like I'd play everything around the E and just hit that E on the fourth note.
Okay.
And I think with the theme of the seven, it at least for me musically, like I immediately recognized it. I mean, yeah, that was like a wow moment. Don't get me wrong. Like I was like, oh my gosh, she just killed everybody, and this hasn't happened in the books yet. So yeah, there's that. But it's like the way the score is composed. It was the same type of thing. Like it hits every note around the Rains of Castamere, but doesn't play the Rains of Castamere. If that makes sense.
I guess Rains of Castamere, when I wrote it down for myself, you know, there's the, I'm going to flute it up for you guys now if you want. There's the, so it does, you know, you have this jump up of a six to start it off, which is kind of a big interval. But the real melody is just with these extra notes that are further away to just make it sound interesting. So it's actually a very narrow range of notes that he's truly using for the melody. But and then I didn't play the next part that sounds more like it's in a
Right, but that's the notational basis for the theme of the seven.
What happened?
That's
Oh, you think that's what they use as the bass line?
The same notational basis.
Maybe. Yeah, it's not a huge range when you get to the actual melody there. It's just like a fifth. And I noticed he did that with a couple of other pieces of music where he purposely doesn't have a huge range within the melody. But that doesn't mean that he does that for every piece. So I'm not going to say it's like a thing. It's just.
Well, and also, you don't need to show off. Like, and this is coming from someone who, as we've established, loves Mozart and Wagner. Okay, I love the two biggest show-offs of all time. And by the way, my third would be Chopin.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. Like, the brilliance of Brahms is that it's stayed and you feel comfortable with Brahms' work. You feel earthed. You feel there. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I need to listen to some. I haven't listened to anything Brahms in a while. I should do that today. I had a student who called him Brahms once because we were playing a piece by Brahms, and I was like, "Oof, it's not Brahms." But anyways,
one of the greatest bassists of all time also called him Brahms, though. So
they both didn't know how to pronounce it.
No, it was a joke because there's on a Yes album. There's a track called Cans and Brahms.
Okay, so they purposely mispronounced it.
And it's variations on Brahms music.
Nice.
Done on a bass guitar. It's
fun.
I think that's on Yes. Oh gosh, I can't even remember.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to.
By the way, you're a musician, so if you ever want a job, like Yes has a revolving door of musicians for the past 40 years. So.
But it doesn't mean that I play anything that they would want me to play.
They'd be into a flautist. They'd be like,
I'm not the greatest. I'm okay. You know, that's.
I'm trying to, you know.
You're trying to bump me up, and I'm going to continue to make sure that I'm terrible. But anyways, it's just to get back to what we were saying with Rains of Castamere. The first the first time we ever hear it is in season 2. They don't play it at all in season 1. And there's a few times that we hear it in season 2, including the music from Battle of the Blackwater, where you have a piece of music where it's thrown in there, and as well as Stannis' theme is thrown in there, of course. And then I believe it's that same episode where the credits have the Nationals version of Reigns of Castamere.
But for me, the big moment in that episode is definitely when Tyrion is giving his speech.
His rousing speech, yeah.
And they pull up the entire freaking Igor Stravinsky orchestra, Reigns of Castamere version. Like, they keep it in the background, but it's like that's a 64-part orchestra playing. Like,
yeah, you need like a Berlioz size orchestra playing. If anybody gets that reference, thumbs up to you. I hope you might, but if you don't, that's okay. And so that's the first time we heard any. I believe also that's the first time we heard any like outside artist performing music from Game of Thrones. And then we have, of course, we have the versions that we hear in season 3. If you own the soundtrack album, you'll see it called A Lannister Always Pays His Debts. It starts off as the cello, and then you have like counter melody in the higher strings, and eventually it adds in the percussion as the violins take over it starts off a very sort of sparse orchestration, and then it builds as it goes on.
Season 3 is your favorite. So
is my favorite soundtrack, yeah. And there's even a piece that's called Kingslayer that's supposed to be like the Jaime theme. I did notice while looking at all of the different tracks of, all the different soundtracks from each season that, I probably noticed this subconsciously, but until I actually purposely looked at it, he does do themes for either families or people, mainly more often families than individuals. But in someone like Wagner, we have stuff like leitmotifs. In somebody like Berlioz, it's called the Idee Fixe.
And even the ones for people are generally an arrangement.
There's either, if it is a new piece, it'll still have little references and such to their family.
Right. Like Arya's theme, for example, is still the Stark theme. It's just the Stark
Valar Morghulis theme?
I'm sorry?
The Valar Morghulis theme, you mean?
Well, just like Arya's theme, the one that, I believe Valar Morghulis is the first one.
That one? Because that one's not like the Stark theme to me.
No. Okay, so not that. I'm talking about the... No, everything in Braavosi until she's about to leave.
Okay.
Is different.
Yeah. I never thought of that as her theme, but other people online would like to argue that that's her theme. But I think of that more as a like Arya and Jaqen interaction theme,
I think that's Arya in the East.
Or like Arya and the Faceless Men.
Right.
Theme, not Arya Stark, but Arya as no one theme or something.
But I was specifically thinking with that about season 7, because like Arya has her own version of her theme that is nothing like the rest of the Starks, but it's still based on it.
I'd have to go back and listen to season 7 more to
I apologize.
I didn't really pay as much attention to season 7 when I was looking everything up, but it was nice.
No, this is my fault because
when looking, there's so much to possibly talk about. It's hard to figure out what you want to focus on. But I noticed, of course, as the seasons got later, you saw more tracks listed where it was like, oh, and it blends this theme with this theme and this theme also kind of in there. So the further we go on, the more likely there's going to be a piece where they're going to reference other people or families' themes at some point during the piece.
Right.
So that was just something I noticed. And then just so that I don't forget to talk about this one. So after we have everything with the Red Wedding and etc., when we have season 4, we have the Two Swords, where Tywin is reforging ice. And that definitely has some Rains of Castamere in there. But also we have the version of Rains of Castamere as performed by Sigur Rós, which was a version that was super inappropriate for a wedding. And that's why Joffrey throws the coins at them. But I love it because I love Sigur Rós so much. And I can talk about them forever. So hopefully everybody in the chat has heard of Sigur Rós. And if you haven't, then you're missing out on some great Icelandic music. But yeah, and then there's like a million other pieces that definitely utilize the Lannister theme throughout other series. Like, of course, a few different pieces associated with like Cersei, when she's trapped by the faith, and several pieces throughout season 7 utilize it because of
Well, I'm sure you noticed this, but all the Cersei centric scenes are the Rains of Castamere in a minor key.
Well, Rains of Castamere is in a minor key,
but in a fugue style,
like some sort of variation on it. You mean?
Right.
Okay.
It's more like.
Yeah, it's not in the very plain version that we were used to.
Right.
There's there's like a version of it, say, when Jaime and everybody goes to take Highgarden in season 7, and it's I believe the description that I saw was like a much more triumphant version, which is interesting to have it feel triumphant when he's doing that, and then the next episode or scene or whatever it is where that's when he finds out that Olenna was the one who poisoned Joffrey.
I really want to hear the Rains of Castamere in C major.
Play it differently? I could. What key did I say is in D? It starts on the 5th note of the scale. Let's see.
I think it's.
It sounds wrong in major. It's not supposed to be major. The second part of the phrase is technically it moves to a major harmony, but it doesn't say there. So if you're like, then you go. But then you kind of and then you're like, oh, where's it gonna go? Oh, it has to go. Then you're back into D minor where you started. So it has to be a minor. Almost all of the pieces in the entire show, they're all in either minor or some weird version of a mode, where you're not sure what key you're in. But nothing's in major in Game of Thrones. Nobody's happy. You'll get like a couple bars that are in major, and then it goes right back.
Which gets to the brilliance of Djawadi. Like, this isn't a happy Ramsey freaking Snow says it.
Oh yeah, you think this has a happy ending?
You think this is gonna have a happy ending?
He's so good.
You're not paying attention.
Not good. The character, like the actor. Sorry. And I recently watched that actor in the Motley Crue Netflix film. I recommend it.
The Motley Crue Netflix film.
Yeah, it's the movie based on the Motley Crue tell-all book or whatever. The Dirt.
Who did he play?
And Nikki Sixx wrote. He played Mick Mars. He played the guitarist.
Yeah,
he spoke with an American accent. It was interesting.
Tall enough for it because everybody else was kind of tall.
What happened?
Well, Mick Mars and Vince Neil are both like 5'4".
Yeah.
And then Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee are both like
Really tall, yeah.
My height.
Yeah. Well, they have Tommy Lee was played by Machine Gun Kelly, if people know who he is. I only know who he was because I saw him randomly in something else. I didn't know anything about his music or whatever.
I know who he is because Eminem kicked his ass in a rap battle. But
yeah, I sort of know more who he is than what he's done. But he played Tommy Lee, and he was very tall and skinny. But anyways, uh, so I don't know.
sorry,
And
be real. So your favorite season?
You mean the soundtrack? My favorite season soundtrack, or my favorite season overall?
Yeah, because I know you were very excited about
Oh,
talking.
what else should I focus? I don't want to just keep talking and talking and talking, and you don't get as much.
I asked you on my channel so you could keep talking.
Oh,
and
it's true.
talking
It's true.
about
It's true.
music.
Okay. And then so within,
That's
although
kind of why I invited you to my house.
okay, I will say the only thing that is a bummer is that season 2 is where you get more of a highlight of the Stannis / Melisandre / Lord of Light theme, which is kind of my favorite out of all the themes, just because it's so like. But and of course, because I am apparently on Team Theon for whatever, I still don't understand that game that we're doing in Geek Chat. I've never understood it. If anybody in the chat wants to explain it to me, you can do that. I'm some sort of team captain for Team Theon, so I'm in the Squid Squad. So
I'm just a member of Team Cersei, and I was like, okay, I didn't expect this, but
she has good music, though. She has good music, John.
She does have good music. I was just like, I get sorted into this, so I'll write it like Moon Boy.
Yeah. And Moon Boy too. All right. And then within this season, the Greyjoy theme was introduced the season before, which I'm gonna play a little bit of it for you guys just because it's great.
Because it's phenomenal. It's I love Djawadi's work, but this is probably my favorite piece by him.
Really, the Greyjoy theme?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then I'll play, and then I'll compare that with the Reek piece from season 3.
Honestly, between you, me, and everybody who's on line right now, I'm so sick of the main theme for Game of Thrones.
Oh, the main theme everybody's sick of, because I mean, living in New York, you constantly hearing some a-hole with a speaker in the subway platform playing it or whatever. So let me get to a different part of it. You hear that?
Oh yeah.
So you can hear the melody is in very long, stretched out notes. But listen to what's happening underneath it. Okay. So let me see if the chat can tell us. What do you hear in that Greyjoy theme that's very much on point for them? So while you have, you know, the underneath it, you have like and stuff like that. Sorry, my tone is really bad. I don't practice enough anymore. But like, do you guys notice, you know, what Djawadi is trying to do there with that Greyjoy theme? Sorry, I teach too much, so I'm used to like, okay, I'm not going to give you the answer. You have to come up with it. But anyways, I don't want to waste too much of everybody's time. So underneath the long melody, you have these arpeggiated chords. You don't have harmony that's played at the same time. You don't have block chords. You have broken chords that are constantly going back and forth. The melody is also sort of outlining chords too, very often, and they're never in like the whole like the first position. They're always in like second inversion or something. Just because that feels more open to us, I guess. So let me see if anybody answered me. I was saying secret evil undertones. I guess that would work for sure. Oh, Mackenzie L. Burns, hello. But within that Greyjoy piece, you're hearing, in the harmony part, you're hearing waves, essentially, I think.
You know what I'm going to say?
What are you going to say?
Oh, come on. You know what I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
It's like jazz riffs.
Always comes back to jazzers. How?
No, because it plays around the note.
Yeah, you're not. At times, they're not sitting on the tonic of the chord, and they're not. They're
right,
constantly moving around it. Yeah.
Like you play an E chord on the piano. It's E, C sharp,
E major or E minor?
Yeah.
Which one?
Regular E. Like a regular E chord.
Or minor?
I'm sorry?
E major or minor?
E major.
Okay, yeah. E, G sharp, B, yeah.
But
these are in second inversion, so it would be B, E, G sharp.
Right. If you're playing jazz, you would go B, E, C sharp, B, C sharp, B, C sharp.
You don't hardly spend any time on the actual E, is what you're saying?
Yeah, you hit that E every once in a while. God gave us thumbs for a reason. It's just to hit that E every once in a while.
Yeah. So, as I promised, we're going to...
Does that make sense?
I guess, yeah, it does. Don't worry.
I think that sounds kind of nonsensical, but...
It's fine, John. Don't worry. Okay, hold on.
It to me, as a pianist, it makes sense.
Okay. And then, since I made a point to talk about the Greyjoy theme, I was going to compare it with when we hear the piece Reek. So let me make sure this is at an appropriate time in the piece to highlight. I still don't know where the mic is on my computer, so I'm hoping it's there. So we hear those waves in the arpeggiated chords, but we're also hearing all these drums there. Drums is the wrong word. We're hearing all this percussion because everybody think of like, what scene is that particular piece of music from? Does anybody want to shout out in the chat where they think that Reek piece is actually happening within the show?
Mackenzie's here. I bet she could. She's watched this shit like
17 times.
17 times, like
that would work. Yeah.
In the past month.
Possibly, but if anybody can think of like we
were actually having a talk earlier today. She's like, "Do you know how many times I've watched these episodes? Like, I remember every moment. I remember every word that every time." Which, is a great testament to how committed she is to her channel.
Very true. Very true. Everybody should join Episode Club tomorrow night, 8:30. It's episode 7-6, correct? Beyond the Wall, I think.
No, it's 7-4.
Okay. So she will correct us.
Yeah, she'll probably be like, "No, you asshole."
Anyways, you were both wrong. So anyways, the reason I picked that part of the piece called Reek is because it's clearly the point in the story where Ramsay hasn't truly revealed himself to Theon yet, and Theon realizes that he's being chased, essentially. And then about halfway, I can't play the whole track again because I don't want to, break any copyright or whatever.
Oh no, if you stop and then start, you're fine.
Okay, but eventually, let me see if I can find where it kind of changes. Eventually, it just kind of changes to like quiet, ominous sounds like this. So it really kind of talks about like, this is the formation of Reek or whatever. But I just love that in the chase scene you have all these drums and stuff, but then all of a sudden it just comes in with very clear references to the Greyjoy theme, and you have other scenes in other episodes and other seasons and etc., where you have that very clear reference to the Greyjoy theme as well, not only for Theon, but like once we have Euron in like season 6 and everything, they make a point, I think, in big Greyjoy scenes to call back to the piece of music that he wrote for season 2.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He is a musician and as a writer, he's well developed enough that he can call back to his own work. And a lot of score composers can't do that. That's why a lot of scores and sequels really fail.
Because they don't connect the series of movies as much.
Right.
The music.
Exactly.
I mean, I would see why people even wouldn't want to do it, because they don't want it to seem like they're just recycling material. And I get why, why he would even do it just to recycle occasionally, just because there's so much, it's a series that has several, so many seasons. He has to recycle some of it at some point.
Yeah, you do.
And it would sound awkward to not connect in this way that you could so clearly connect.
There's a difference between playing around a theme,
yeah,
and just playing the theme again.
Exactly.
Like
go ahead.
It's why soap operas are dramatic.
Yeah.
Every character has their theme, and they don't. By their very nature, soap operas. I mean, you want to shoot 5 times a week, 40 weeks a year. Like, I don't want to be on camera that much.
Eventually, there's only so many things they can write after a time. Yeah.
So each character has their own theme, and nothing changes about it. With cinematic television, where you can have those season breaks, and you have the week-to-week different. One can play with it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me see if there's anything in the chat. Okay, there we go. And then just to, and I hope this is some people's favorite piece from season 3 and from various points in the series, but let me pull it up, or I'll just play it. Screw it. So I hope that's everybody's favorite, one of their favorite themes. And I hope that I don't look really weird playing flute on camera, because I know that we naturally look very strange around this part of our face when we play. But, if anybody recognizes that theme, say it. I know that you recognize it. So, I don't know. I think it's one of the coolest.
I've got a smooch for whoever calls it out first. I know what it is.
I mean, they should know who it is. It's more of a person rather than a family. I'll give them that hint. I mean, Amanda just gave us a bunch of hearts, so I don't know if that's an answer or not. Sure, but let's see. But it's like, I think it suits the person very well, Oh,
come
and
on,
my version very abbreviated.
Oh.
I'll just put it in the background. Ooh, they're thinking. They're thinking.
Think lots of pouting.
Think ambiguous accents.
Maybe not that much pouting, but a lot of pouting.
Here we go. want to turn it off before I've played too much. But anyways,
I think we're good at like 8 seconds.
what happened? Yeah.
I think we're good.
You can cut it off at before you have to like reserve the rights for something. But we're doing, you know, we're doing an analyzation, we're doing a discussion, we're not whatever.
And I don't make any money off this shit.
No. We're not making anything, so it doesn't matter.
I like talking music to people who know music.
Yeah.
Now, come on, somebody. Right on the tip of your tongue.
Okay, I want to say there's actually no Marjorie theme song, Brunholler, as far as I know. I didn't notice any Marjorie themes or House Tyrell themes, which was interesting, but I guess because they're not as much of a focus all the time. You know, in the books, they're not any point of view characters, so they just don't have as much going on, maybe. But they're
the Tyrells have a theme.
Maybe they didn't highlight it on the albums, and that's why I didn't notice.
Oh, as much of a Bach nerd as you are, I am surprised that
I'll probably go rewatch, you know, whatever episode in a couple of days and be like, oh, that's the Tyrell theme. But apparently, the Tyrell theme was not good enough to make it obviously to the soundtrack albums. But anyways, has anybody said it yet? Yes, Amanda, it is Littlefinger. Thank you. Okay. So you know, that track is named Chaos is a Ladder, which is everybody's favorite Littlefinger quote. And was everybody's more favorite Bran Stark quote in season 7. So that one's pretty fucking rad. I don't know. It's just nice and creepy like he is. I don't think there was anything that I wrote down and I'm like, oh, I have to talk about this one. Oh my gosh. Oh, and my favorite, It's Always Summer Under the Sea. That one. I hope that's everybody's favorite creeptastic patch face.
Yeah, because it's like folk songs, which are generally written in major keys. Like, I mean, they were just written for voice, but still, but it's done in a minor key. It's like almost like it's backwards.
That one?
It's written in a manner to make you uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's a cappella. It's very like just empty sounding at times, and you know, at one point she's kind of not on key anymore, and I think that was either on purpose or by accident, and they're like, yes, go with that, because it just makes it that much more like unnerving. And you know, it's just a nice little treat for the book readers to get a patch face reference in there, because we don't have that crazy fucker in the show.
Did you miss Patch Face?
Well, when I first started watching the show, I hadn't read the books yet, so I didn't really miss him until then I read the books, and I'm like, what the hell is this? This is great. But
and you kind of missed this whole little like country that is south of the Stormlands.
Yeah, and you just kind of miss this extra element of like the Baratheon history too, with the parents, and you know, Stannis was such a sad boy and Creston loved him so much. And
I love book Stannis, show Stannis.
Yeah, I love Stannis. Stannis is the one true king of Westeros in my heart. Showing up, I just want to give a couple extra shout outs. We have Laura and we have Alicia. Hello. I hope my voice isn't as annoying as it sounds in my head right now.
I don't think your voice is annoying.
Good.
Are the one true spanner.
One true spanner. There we go. And I'm trying to think about what else we said we were going to speak about. I mean, that's not the whole soundtrack, obviously, to season 3, but it's like the ones that I wrote down.
No, I know that's the season that you think
it's a great,
phonetically put together the best.
At least the album, yeah. Like the track list for the soundtrack album is on point. Not that the rest aren't, but like for some reason I liked it a lot. Not a lot more, but just like that extra little bit more. Who knows? And I have that rock portion of Bear in the Maiden Fair.
Oh, please.
Sorry.
No, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the one other thing I wanted to bring up was Djawadi uses very good use of rests.
Mm-hmm.
He knows when to stop. The Battle of the Bastards, if it had scoring during that moment,
Mm-hmm.
would not have been anywhere near as intense.
Yeah, it creates extras. Like, and not having any music in the background can create much more suspense because you're almost at a loss for those cues that you get from the music. So you're just like, what the hell is going to happen now?
It puts you on the edge of your seat.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And what else are we going to talk about? Speaking of silence, though, we mentioned very briefly that there are at least a couple of episodes where the end credits do not have music playing during them. Specifically, the Red Wedding and the Mountain and the Viper. It goes to nothing eventually in the credits there, which is very impactful, even though there's nothing else happening on the screen at that moment anyways. Just to know that normally they would have something playing at that time and they're like, nope, this is the mood you should be in right now. Silence.
Yeah, in music, a rest is so important, let alone a full stop like that.
Yeah.
It is
so pause. GP.
Phenomenally important. Oh, what's his name? The composer who opened his piano 3 times.
Oh, John Cage, man?
Yeah.
Where the name of the piece is just an amount of time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's John Cage.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he just opens his piano 3 times.
I mean, that's more like, in ways it could be even more categorized as performance art at that point, but
yeah, I would call it
making a point. Yeah. It's making a distinct point, especially at that point in time. Things were so well, all of his stuff was very out there at times, or just the thinking behind it was different.
I didn't say I liked it. I just
it was an interesting statement to make. I don't worship Cage like some people in the academic music world do. Not that they worship him, but at the same time, if we didn't have him doing what he was doing, we might not have had other people in the way that they were too. I don't know. But anyways, this is not a stream about John Cage and how little I know about him, to be very honest. But yeah, I mean,
my angry Central Europeans.
What happened?
But okay, so Djawadi, do you have anything that you want to see in season 8 with his music?
I think it would be really interesting again if he does if he does something big like he did with The Light of the Seven in season 6, where he introduces a piece with a sound that we haven't heard him use in the series before. We'll know that's an oh shit moment.
I think that's the first time he uses a piano, isn't it?
I think it's the only time he really uses it. There might be one other time after that he kind of incorporates it into a piece. But with that piece, it was so deliberate because it was a solo instrument at the beginning of the piece. He'd never used it before. And this is near the end of season 6. So we've had a whole lot of show without it. And then
it's a very deliberate instrument.
What happened?
I just said it's a very deliberate instrument.
Yeah. So
like a piano is like a
was very deliberate as well. Yeah. Everything about that piece was deliberate. I mean, not that his other ones are, but that also, when you look at that piece on the soundtrack, you notice that it's much longer than some of the other score pieces that they have, because it's a very long scene.
Yeah.
You know, so
what did you say? It's 22 minutes?
with the piece?
Were you exaggerating or?
Oh, on the album, it's only like 7 or 8 minutes, I think.
Okay.
But some of the other ones, you know, you'll only see them as little as like 2.5 minutes segments that you'll see the other pieces on the soundtrack, whereas that one was very long, because it was, you know, one long continuous piece, and where everything else was more broken up, I guess, on the show, so that when you got the tracks, they weren't
right. No, I'm wondering, because like now that I think back on it, and that's one of my favorite episodes. It's like a third of the episode is that.
Third of the episode is preparing for that moment, you mean?
Yeah.
And that moment? I mean, it's definitely.
Maybe it's just in my head, but it feels like that.
I think it seems even longer than it is, and then after it happens too, I believe it goes to quiet when as our friend Johnny would say, Tommen planks out the window, because he just straight falls flat. I'm pretty sure there's no music at that point. You just hear him step over to the window and plop straight out.
Yeah, you know, he's just like, he doesn't even give a peace out, bitches. He's just like.
Oh, I mean, honestly, is there a better choice he could have made at that moment?
No, probably not at all.
I think he made the right choice.
Actually,
you know, and he made a fantastic GIF for everyone to enjoy.
The other Sasa was kind enough to have me on her channel to talk about this episode, which will be up with the podcast in a couple of days.
Nice.
But you know, yeah, Tommen, like he dude, you're like 16. You just lost your virginity to Natalie Dorn, and now she's dead. Let alone all the ramifications of like he loves her, and his kingdom's falling apart, and his mom's.
And he just realized how much of a crazy evil bitch his mother is.
Right.
He's
like I would probably be like, oh, hey, Window, you're my best friend.
He's like, I have nothing left to live for. I'm sorry, Sir Pounce.
Like, at least while my wife was alive, I kind of had this thing.
Yeah. But, like, we never found out what happened to Sir Pounce, and that's an important question to me. I was talking about this the other night at the Game of Thrones trivia that I went to on Sunday, and somebody was like, I read somewhere that she said that Cersei killed Sir Pounce after that. And I was like, no. Because everybody who sees me in the chat on, like, too many streams at times knows that I will generally at some point mention that Sir Pounce is Azor Ahai. So, you know, whatever.
Sir Pounce is Azor Ahai.
Mm-hmm. It is known. It was established by Alt Shift X, and, you know, now we know the truth.
Let me shade. Do you bet on Sir Pounce? She's looking out the window.
Oh, your cat. Sorry. I was like, what's happening?
She's like, no. Yeah. No.
I'm a cat.
She's like, not my god.
Yeah. So I'm trying to
My cat's a pantheonist though, so it's a little messed up.
I'm trying to think if there was you know, what other things you particular wanted to highlight.
Once again, coming back to the rests, the Battle of the Bastards.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that I really wanted to touch on, and once again, it comes up with the rest of the music. I don't think that scene would be anywhere near as brutal
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't have the music cut out.
True.
And a lot of composers can be prima donnas. And I think Djawadi just being like, oh, hey, yeah. Sound right, guys, please just like have a bunch of people slamming swords against each other. Okay, this makes sense. It works well because sometimes, as much as I love cinematic music, sometimes it can get to a point where it's like you're almost detracting from the story with your music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something my grandmother told me all the time when I was a kid. You need to shut up once in a while. Like, and I thought it worked well. I don't think that scene would be quite as powerful as if there were music going on the entire time.
True.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm actually looking up because I want to post it into the chat. The podcast episode that I sent you on Song Exploder, where he talked to Ramin Djawadi about I think he mainly talked about the main theme to the show, which I know we didn't focus on today because we're all kind of jaded with it. But what happened?
I'm jaded with everything except for the coin.
Except for the what?
The coin.
Okay.
And that's just because I want the coin. I don't really care what happens to the miniature after that. I've seen it so many times.
Nice.
I just want to pocket it.
Okay, hold on. Making sure that's live. Okay, I'm putting anybody who is a mod, make sure that it allows me to post this link.
I thought you were a mod.
I'm not. I'm not worthy, apparently. No, I'm kidding. So hopefully that'll go through. I think it will, because it came up in my chat. But if you want to hear a very short, like less than 15-minute podcast with Djawadi speaking about the theme and how he comes up with music for the show. It's from several years ago, so it's not very recent. But it's an easy thing to listen to because it's not very long or too over involved. And Song Exploder is a very interesting podcast to listen to. They interview artists about a specific song and they kind of break it down how they built that song or piece or whatever it is they're talking about. So hopefully, some people will enjoy that in the chat. Oh, and we have the dog show. Hello. So I think we got through most of the stuff that we wanted to highlight. If there's anything that people were hoping that we could talk about that we haven't yet, please mention that. But I hope that we had enough things to say on this topic that haven't been said over and over or anything like that.
Yeah, and that was the entire point of the stream, was just to talk about the music and talk about the composing. Like, this isn't about even the show, really. It's about the composition for the show. This isn't about book to show. I certainly don't believe that I have any season 8 predictions or anything like that.
John's been avoiding the season 8 predictions, as hopefully everybody in the chat knows.
Yeah, I hope so.
A few more days, it'll be fine. But yeah, I don't know.
Braun's asking for the link that you were trying to add.
Oh, let me do it again. I think it'll come up, Braun Holler, I think it'll come up as, it'll come up like, do you approve of this? Because I'm not a mod. Because I don't think non-mods are supposed to post later.
I have one spanner to rule them all.
I'm pasting. Let's see if it comes up. Uh-oh, it didn't. See if it allows me to do it. Okay, here it is again.
Send it to me.
Okay, I'll try to do that. Hold on, John.
Because, like, if Brown Holler is Morgoth or is Sauron, then I'm Morgoth. Like,
okay. It popped up on my chat on my screen, but that doesn't mean that it popped up on everybody's.
by the way, if anybody got that reference.
I didn't. Okay. Can someone else in the chat just give us a thumbs up or something if you see that it says me and then it has a link? Okay.
Brown Holler swears in Elvish, apparently.
Okay. And I'll send you that link to John so that at the very least you can add it maybe to
Send me the link and I'll put it in the description
or whatever, or I can go back after we're done and put it in the comments for the video or something like that.
Yeah, so anyone out there, if I don't give you a spanner, I threw out one spanner for non-silence and it's already been done.
Yeah.
He's gonna be offended if you don't have it. Even Sarah, who is kind enough to come on my channel with me, like there's no.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, but apparently Brown Holler swears in Elvish. You know what I have to say to that? Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Okay. All right. Oh.
And if anybody got that joke, you get like 5 John points.
Okay. I get 0 John points then. All right. Well, yeah, I don't know what else to say at the moment.
I think we should say that music
covered everything that we wanted to cover.
Yeah, I think we did. Does music make the people come together?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think these disparate freaks would be together if it weren't for that?
Probably not. I would know far less people, at least internet know far less people, if I was not part of this very interesting online community of people who love to obsess over these books and this TV show and everything. These weirdos, like my whole family thinks I'm insane. They're like, "Oh my God, you're going to a trivia for it, and you have, you know, you watch these things too much. You got to get a life, Sarah." And I'm like, "You will have your own obsessions. This one's mine. You know, this is my father was just as obsessive with the Lord of the Rings, and if he was still alive, like
you've never read it."
Yeah, right? I haven't, so I'm completely disrespectful to him. My sisters,
I'm not gonna shame you.
They're better daughters than I was. But anyways, but if he was still,
I'm on my 22nd reading right now. But
yeah, you're intense. He had like a copy of The Ring that he like wore sometimes, and my mother is like, "You put it like next to your wedding ring? That's insane." But anyways, if he was still with us, I would totally gotten into the books and the show, and at least they would have made fun of more than one person. It would have been 2 of us taking the flack from the rest of everybody. But yeah, I love being part of this community, and I hope. Oh, Braunhaller also has the One Ring, so hey, it's what all the cool people have, I guess. So, and I see a couple other people have to run now, so we're gonna run.
Mermaid. Everybody who came out tonight.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm not gonna type it because a real smooch is better, right?
There we go. Alrighty. So, is there anything else
to give out, SassaK?
Do I have what?
Do you have any smooches to give out?
I can give a smooch out if people really want it. I don't know that they do. But here you go, peeps. There you go. All right. I'm not as familiar with smooches as Sean is, I guess. But anyways, I guess since we're wrapping up, is there anything you want to mention that's coming up on your channel other than?
There's a huge thing that's going to be starting tomorrow, but we'll be talking about that tomorrow. And also, we have American Gods tomorrow night. If anybody's watching American Gods, please come join me. My other guys as Jin St. Baptiste, when you get to see me behind the scenes, and Amy Truer Than True, and just believe. And the other big thing that's starting tomorrow, you'll probably figure out within a week. I'm just going to say. And it's a lot of work for me. So I hope you appreciate it.
All right. And I have nothing to promote for myself because, you know, that's fine. As far as other things that we can promote, I know that tomorrow night, as I mentioned earlier, I will be in the chat for Mackenzie's stream because I try to make all episode club episodes if I can. And I hope I see everybody on everyone else's streams coming up, you know, and I'll be able to be actually in the chat when I'm not trying to kind of be on screen and, you know, never looking at the actual camera so that I always look very awkward. And just seeing myself today, I speak with my hands a lot more than I thought. So
I have to say, this is your first not party stream, and props.
Okay, thank you.
Because I made it an absolute pig's breakfast of my first. So.
Huh. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I didn't screw anything up, which is good.
Not remotely. Actually, I had a wonderful time having this conversation.
Okay.
I hope everybody else enjoyed it. And for all of you out there, I just have to say, music makes people come together and believe.